So yeah, we have a kind of maybe association in Indonesia, but I think we need to spread or extend to wider scope, and not only in one department, English education department, but also to other departments. In case some of the students have a good passion in reading, let's say in engineering faculty, engineering department. So in our university, we have 6 faculties. So far, those the one who is the most active, to access English resources is from English education department. But there are some also from other departments, but maybe we can extend it to more wider scope. That's the condition, Mr. Paul.
Great. May I ask, so the English, I used to teach in the English education department. It was my favorite teaching.
Yeah.
It's great to teach future English teachers. May I ask though, so right now, if I understand correctly, extensive reading is being done primarily with the English education majors, and you're thinking to expand it beyond. Is that correct?
Yes, exactly. So,
so just one more question. So the English education majors, how are they actually doing extensive reading now? Are they doing it online with free materials? Are they going to the library and getting books? Well, what's your current situation during the pandemic and before the pandemic for extensive reading?
Yeah, for extensive reading in English education department. So I'm teaching in English education department. Before the pandemic, we had the students come to the library. We've got credit readers, so we have purchased credit readers. So, but during the pandemic, and then I only gave online resources, but free online resources. Yeah.
Understand. So in terms of the physical library, which graded readers did you get? Like Oxford and Cambridge, Macmillan, or different ones?
Bu Atia, yang terbaru apa ya Bu? Kemarin yang saya minta untuk di-purchase oleh
Macmillan sama Cambridge.
Oh, Macmillan, Cambridge, and then Bookworms by Pearson or what? Yeah, I have no idea the name, but yeah, we've got some.
Okay.
Anyway, most of them are basic reading.
Okay, great. And for online, what have you been doing for online resources?
For online resources, we use not particularly for reading, not for the extensive reading program. We have electronic journal, electronic books, but it's the subjects of our universities.
Okay, got it. Okay. Yeah, so
I use ER Foundation. Paul.
I'm sorry?
ER Foundation. Yeah, from Thomas Rob. Yeah.
Tom Rob.
Yeah, Tom Rob.
Yeah, he's a good friend of mine. We work very closely together.
Yeah. Mostly I use that online resources. Yeah, during the pandemic, I had my students access that website.
Okay, good. Yeah, he and I used to live very close to each other. We could almost walk to each other's houses. But I moved to a different part of Osaka now. I think he comes to Indonesia very often. Have you met him in person?
Yeah. Rob Waring, no. For Rob, I haven't met him. I met Rob Waring, not Tom Rob.
Okay, so you met Rob. Okay.
Yeah, it's different Tom, right?
I know both of them very well. I was supposed to go to Indonesia last year for 3 weeks and travel around with Tom Rob and Rob Waring. We were going to visit, I think, about 20 different universities and high schools. But we had to cancel everything. I was very disappointed. I've been all over Southeast Asia, but I have not been to Indonesia yet. So I really want to visit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next year, yeah. Hopefully next year.
I hope so. Last year I kept saying next year.
And drop by Universitas Meriam Kudus in Central Java.
Yeah.
Ya, Bu Atia sudah.
Bisa dimulai.
Ini saya mulainya gimana Bu? Saya hanya mengantarkan aja mungkin ya. terus kemudian nanti Bu Atiyah mungkin ya Bu ya.
Oke, nanti sama-sama aja.
Oke, baik. Paul, can we start?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, yeah, okay. Good
Is
morning.
Is about 45 minutes okay?
Your demonstration?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure I have time to go through all the important points.
Okay.
Let me, so I can share.
Can I open first? I want to greet some my colleagues.
Oh, of course. All right.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay. A lot of people here.
Ya, baik. Selamat pagi. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, Bapak Ibu. Good morning, Paul. Thank you for coming. It's nice to have you here. Bapak Ibu, Pak Agung, should I use English full or nanti bilingual ya Bu Atiyah ya?
It's okay, Bu.
Yeah, okay.
Mixed language.
Yeah, okay. I will use Indonesian and English at the same time. Oke, Bapak Ibu, jadi hari ini ada Paul Goldberg. Beliau ini founder XReading. So Paul Goldberg is the founder of XReading. XReading is later he will give kind of demonstration. Ini kemarin idenya adalah the idea of inviting Bapak Ibu here, and also Paul is because of the program of extensive reading atau dalam bahasa Indonesia membaca luas. So jadi Paul ini he's got foundation ya, XReading itu membaca luas. Nanti harapannya begini, we can apply or we can use this kind of program for all students, not only English Education Department students. Why? Because I think extensive reading is so important. Although our students are from different major, different discipline, but reading is basic. Yeah, reading is very important. When our students love reading, yeah, in the beginning when their reading habits are good, so I think it will be helpful. It will be nice for them to later learn English to be more specific, depends on their major or discipline. Okay, so that's why I told Bu Atiyah about this. I told Bu Atiyah about Paul and XReading, and then it's nice that today in this morning we can gather here to listen to the demonstration of Paul. And ya, kira-kira seperti itu Bapak Ibu. Mengapa Bapak Ibu ada di sini begitu? Later kita lihat, let's see whether the university can have kind of cooperation with XReading to provide XReading for our students. Maybe not all, but we can just, let's see what we can do later after the demonstration. I hope that it will be a start, or it will be a starting point for making our students read more and more, to make a good habit for our students in the university. Baik, sepertinya begitu. Mungkin Bu Atiyah wanna say something, Bu Atiyah, please.
Cukup Bu Luciana.
Okay, yeah.
Demonstrasi bisa dimulai.
Okay, baik. Paul, please, you've got your 45 minutes. Start from now on. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much. I didn't realize so many people are joining. This is wonderful. I'm glad you're interested. I got a little nervous now. Okay, so let me share my screen, start the screen. Wait a minute, hold on. Okay, can you see my presentation now?
Yes.
Okay, let me just get the Okay, thank you for the introduction. My name is Paul Goldberg. I'm based in Osaka, Japan. As you can probably guess, I'm not Japanese. I'm from New York originally, but I've lived in Japan a long time. And I was teaching mostly at university for many years and got interested in extensive reading. So I'll tell you a little bit about that. If you don't mind, I'm going to start with a quick introduction of what is extensive reading. I think all of you are familiar, but just to make sure, there's actually there's books written explaining extensive reading. I have condensed it to one sentence. It's reading large quantities of text that is easy to understand. Okay. It's based on Stephen Krashen's input hypothesis, which basically says if students are exposed to large quantities of language that they understand, they will begin to acquire that language. Okay, they will learn the language, but it has to be a lot and it has to be easy. Okay. The basic principles of extensive reading: students are reading for meaning. Okay, I know it sounds normal. We always read for meaning, but not students. Students are typically reading for language. They want to know, what is the subject of the sentence? What is the verb of the sentence? In extensive reading, they're reading to understand the whole story. The text is relatively long and there's very few unknown words. The emphasis is on fluency over accuracy. I don't know in Indonesia very well because I never taught there, but in Japan, in Asia, Japan, Korea, and China, there's a big influence. There's a big focus on being accurate, not making any mistakes. But that slows students down. Students need to also practice being fast, even if they make some mistakes or don't understand everything perfectly. The main benefits of extensive reading: number one, students see a purpose to reading, which is to read a story, to engage and understand a story, and that can be very enjoyable for students. Recycling of vocabulary. I think this is the pedagogical heart of extensive reading. We are all teachers, and we know there's a big difference between memorizing words and learning words. We want our students to learn words, but more often they're just memorizing them and forgetting them. With extensive reading, students are seeing the words they're familiar with used again and again and again, but in different contexts. And that's really how students can learn words, okay? It has much greater retention, although it can be slower, but it's far more effective. And finally, research shows that students' reading speed and fluency improve. This is a very important point because even if your main objective is to help students pass a standardized test like TOEFL or TOEIC or IELTS, even if that's your main goal, improving their reading speed is going to help them do better on those kind of tests. So extensive reading can help even for standardized tests. Okay. Why I think extensive reading is essential. There's many different analogies teachers like to give. My favorite analogy is tennis. I don't know if any of you play tennis, maybe not, but I'm sure you are familiar with the game. You've seen it before. So if I ask you to become the best tennis player somebody can be, what do they have to do? If somebody wants to become a great tennis player, what do they have to do? Okay, I think the answer is pretty obvious. They have to practice the skills. Again, even if you don't play tennis, you can imagine, what are the skills of tennis? Serving, backhand, forehand, footwork, strategy. Those are the skills of tennis. And if somebody wants to become a very good tennis player, they must practice those skills for many hours. But let me ask you, if somebody practices only the skills, if they sit there and practice serving for hours and hours and hours, and then practice backhand for hours and hours and hours, will that person really become a great tennis player? What do you think? I'm going to argue, no, they will not. They will become good at the skills, but they will not actually become a good tennis player. Because what else do they need to do? What do you think they need to do to become a good tennis player? They have to practice playing the game. Okay, they need to use those skills in a meaningful way. And that's exactly what extensive reading does. It's taking the skills that you're teaching them in your classes and giving them the opportunity to use them in a meaningful way, which is to understand a story. Okay, I think you could understand or agree that if any tennis coach told their students, just practice the skills, you don't have to practice playing, that's just fun, it's not very helpful, they would get fired. But that's what happens often in English education. Memorize this vocabulary, learn these grammar rules, practice this pronunciation without enough time to use it in a meaningful way. And that's what extensive reading is aiming for. For those of you who like more empirical evidence, there's plenty out there. My favorite personal study is one from Japan. I call it the 200,000 word threshold. These teachers found that, if their students read 200,000 words, they made statistically significant improvements in their English ability. Okay, now 200,000 words might sound like a lot, but if you can get your students to read just 15 minutes per day, it's possible. Okay, So the average reading speed for extensive reading, not the first book, not the second book, but after students have done extensive reading for a few weeks, they can reach about 150 words per minute. Okay. If they read 15 minutes per day, how long will it take to reach 200,000 words? About 1,333 minutes. If you divide that by days, how many days will it take? About 88 days. That's quite a while. How about intensive reading? When I say intensive reading, I mean something very difficult, like from a TOEFL or TOEIC or IELTS exam, or from the newspaper. Lots of difficult words, so the student needs to use a dictionary, but the dictionary has many meanings for every word. They need to go back to their reading passage, try to guess from the context which is the correct meaning, then go back to the dictionary. The average reading speed for intensive reading, this is again for Japan and Korea, I don't know so well in Indonesia, it's about 17 words per minute. The student reads 15 minutes per day. How long will it take to reach 200,000 words? More than 2 years. Okay, so I think that makes a very good case why extensive reading is so important. I'm not suggesting forget intensive reading. That's also needed, but students need to have a combination of both, just like the tennis player has to practice their skills and also has to practice using their skills. Okay, I'll move on now to an extensive reading program can be very beneficial for students for the reasons I just outlined. However, there's lots of problems implementing an extensive reading program. Number one is just a lack of books. If the school doesn't have enough books, it's hard to do an extensive reading program, and you need a lot of books because you want students to be able to choose books that they're going to enjoy and that are appropriate for their level. Lack of class sets. Extensive reading is typically about students choosing their own book, but there are definitely benefits to having all students in class read the same book at the same time. You can do more engaging activities. However, it's very rare that a school will have enough copies of the same book. Monitoring to see if students are actually reading, okay? In an academic context, like a university, we have to monitor because we have to grade our students. Tracking and recording what they're doing over time can be very problematic. Getting students to read regularly. I'm very lucky I taught in a good university. If I told my students, please read 20 books this semester, almost all of my students will do it. However, almost every student will do it the last week of the semester. Not really what I want them to do, okay? I see some of you are smiling. I'm sure it's a common problem everywhere in the world. Integrating audio. Extensive listening can be very helpful for students. But even in the year 2021, most publishers put the audio narration on a CD. Who has a CD player anymore? Not very useful. And accessibility for students. What I meant by this point originally was students can't get to the library because of it's the weekend or it's a holiday or it's late at night. I wasn't thinking global pandemics, but obviously in an era when students are not coming to campus, extensive reading is even more challenging to implement. So because of all these problems, I was determined to find a solution. I could not find one, so I created my own, which is called XReading VL, which is a virtual library of graded readers students can access anywhere, anytime with no limitations. The mission is simply making extensive reading easier for teachers, more accessible for students, and profitable for publishers so they're willing to support a system like this. Okay, so quick overview for those of you who are not aware. It's an online library of over 1,400 graded readers from almost every major publisher. Okay, and we are constantly adding more. Every week almost, we're adding a few new books and we're adding more publishers. Probably by the end of this year, we'll have close to 2,000 books. Gives unlimited simultaneous use. This is extremely important. It means that every student can read every book at exactly the same time. So number one, that means any book can be a class reader. Number two, it means 1,400 books is not really an accurate number. It's 1,400 books per student. So I forgot to ask how many students are in your program or in your university studying English, but let's just say a university has 1,000 students. This would be equivalent to a library of 1.4 million graded readers, far more than any library could ever hold. Okay, so it's really an enormous resource. On top of that, it works on computers and mobile devices. We have audio, background information, quizzes, and a standardized level system. So you don't have to worry about leveling books from different publishers that are different. This is then linked to a learner management system. This allows teachers to track all their students' reading progress, assess if they're understanding the stories, guide their selection, and assign activities. Okay, I'll now give you, it works on computers, works on tablets, works on mobile devices. An important point is we use adaptive text, not PDF. On a computer or tablet makes almost no difference. It's on a smartphone, it makes a huge difference. This is what XReading looks like. That's adaptive text. This is what a PDF looks like. Okay, if you're going to read a PDF, you're going to have to pinch and zoom. Not very convenient if you're going to be, for students, if they're going to be doing a lot of reading. So I really think it's much, much better the way the system we have. Also, we have, this just shows how many books we have at different levels. Okay, there are literally hundreds of books at every level. So there's never a lack of books for students. Okay, I'll now go through a demonstration. I'll show the instructor side first. We have designed, or I've designed XReading to be as super easy as possible. Okay. Oh, I'm very, very sorry. Can you hold on one moment? I'll be back in one moment. I'm very sorry about that. Is everybody still there?
Yes.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah,
Fine.
An important delivery was just made. I had to catch it. The perils of working from home. Okay, so as I was saying, I've designed XReading to be as simple as possible and not for tech people, for regular teachers. So there's several steps teachers need to do. 3 steps. Number 1, create a class. Number 2, add your students. And number 3, create an assignment. And I believe, Rusiana, you told me that you're already using a learner management system at your university?
Yes, it's local learning management system.
Okay,
like,
so
like Google Classroom, but simpler. Okay,
so I think you're used to what, you understand the idea of creating a class and adding students. It's a pretty normal thing for any learner management system. Okay. So what that actually looks like, you can see here, there's the classes, assignments, and students tab. We're on the classes tab. We will press the add button is always on the right side. Add class. Enter the class name, choose an open date, choose a close date, indicate which semester this is, and save it. It takes about 20 seconds to add a class. If you have many classes to add, you can actually upload a spreadsheet. It's very simple. And you notice every class gets its own enrollment code. Okay, pretty standard. This is automatically generated. This enrollment code will be important in a moment. Okay, next we're going to go to students.
Oh, excuse me. Yep. Can you make the slide bigger? Make it slideshow? Or have you?
Did something change?
Oh, atau sudah ya, Bu Ati ya? Apakah ini sudah ini?
Did the slideshow?
It's quite clear.
Oh, I see. Okay. Oh, probably the problem is in me. Okay.
Okay, just trying to check. Do you see one screen or 2 screens right now? Do you see my presenter view or the PowerPoint? Maybe I'll stop. Okay, is it okay now?
Yeah,
Okay, good.
it's
Okay.
visible.
Okay, so we're going to add students. We're going to this time add a batch. You could add one student, but we're going to add a batch of students. You need to upload a spreadsheet, but what does that spreadsheet look like? You don't have to worry because you can download a blank template. You indicate what information you want. And then you just copy and paste your student information, including the enrollment code that I told you about a moment ago. Okay, by including the enrollment code, you are going to not only put students into XReading, you're going to put them into their correct class. It also means you can put students from multiple classes in one spreadsheet, up to 1,000. Okay, so these are all my students. These are the students, these are the different classes. I'm going to save this, upload spreadsheet. Takes a moment. Oh, this is a confirmation. Yes, these are my students. These are their classes. And they're in the system. Very, very simple. I don't know how simple your system is, but many teachers say this is one of the easiest they've ever used. Okay, finally is assignment. An assignment is simply a period of time you want your students to do something. It could be the whole semester, one assignment. The problem with making one semester assignment is students will wait until the very end to do all their reading. So I recommend short assignments, 2-week assignment or 1-month assignment, and they have a deadline. So they will wait until the end of the deadline, but at least they don't wait to the whole end of the semester. So add assignment, you put the assignment name, the open date, the close date, indicate which class. There's many settings here. We'll talk about these later, but like, for example, if you want...
Yeah, sure.
Question? Any question? No. Okay, if you want to turn off the quizzes, if you want to turn off the audio, that's all on this side here. We're going to leave everything, submit it, and we now have our assignment. Okay, that's the whole teacher setup. It's very, very simple. Next, let's look at the student side. Okay, again, we want to make it as easy as possible. Students need to do 3 things. Log in, select the book, and read. Okay. And when a student logs in, they will see the add book button. Press the add book, and they will see a library with all of the words. Sorry, with all of the books. They can browse or narrow. And by your typical criteria, for example, publisher, level, genre, things like that. They can start reading a book immediately, or they can get more information about the book, like the real library. Okay, so this is the back cover summary and the metadata. How many words? Is it British English? Is it American English? Things like that. Text preview. They can read the first 5 to 10% of the book before they choose it. Audio preview. They can listen to the audio the first minute. Characters. I think one of the most important features we give is we create character lists, because students have trouble keeping track of all the characters. They can see who all the characters are and the importance of the character. Of course, this is subjective, but it helps students know, is this a character I need to remember or not? Okay, and maybe most important are ratings. I wish I could say every graded reader was wonderful, but some are better than others. Some students like some books more than others, and this is a great way for students to find the books that their classmates enjoy most. Okay, if we select this book, this is what it looks like on a computer. Most important to notice is the progress bar up here at the top. If we press next, the progress bar moves forward. We could go back, but we're going to continue going forward. And the progress bar moves forward. Okay, when a student stops reading, it will save their position. Okay, so if a student is in class, they read up to chapter 3, they stop, they have dinner, they log in again, it will bring them right back to chapter 3. Okay, and we stop reading. This is the data that's collected. For teachers, this is probably the most important slide because it shows all the data we have. So we were just reading A Little Princess. It's 2,044 words. The student read 326. We don't know if the student really read, but that's how many words were on the screen. Therefore, it can calculate the percent, 16%. Okay. More importantly, it tracks their reading time, 22 seconds. Okay. Because we track their reading time, we can calculate their reading speed, 445 words per minute. This is very important for 2 reasons. Number 1, reading fluency is an extremely important part of extensive reading, but we rarely know our students' reading speed. So this is a great way to know our students' reading speed and to see if they're having trouble. The second benefit, I don't know in Indonesia, but in Japan, most students are very honest, but we do have some students who will cheat. And when I look at this reading speed, 445 words, I would be very, very suspicious. That's faster than I can read. I don't think my student can read so fast, especially this student was reading 142 words and 147 words per minute just a few weeks earlier. So I don't like to accuse my students of cheating, but every semester the same thing happens. I'll be like, oh, Takako, I see you read your first book in English, 5,552 words. That's wonderful. But you did it in 2 minutes, right before class today. Can you please explain that? And she knows she's been caught. Okay, so it's a great way to catch students cheating. You might think, well, what will that student do next time? Maybe she will log into XReading, open a book to catch the time, but then do something else, Facebook or Twitter or something, watching TV. Not so easy, because we have an activity timer built into the book. That means if a student opens the book and walks away or goes to a different browser, after 1 minute, a silent pop-up comes up and says, hello, Takako, are you really here? If she doesn't reply immediately, the book closes automatically. Okay, so I would never say extensive that XReading prevents all cheating, but it definitely makes it more challenging. Okay, so this is, I think, a good, I have a lot more to show you, but I just want to see if you have any questions because this data is very, very important. Anybody have questions at this point?
May I ask something?
Sure.
Okay, hi Paul, I'm Atia
Hi,
from the library. The book for the graded readers, our current problems, the basic level often consists of book for children.
Okay.
Hence, in this university, they are the basic level readers are young adults. Do you have the theme for the basic reader book with theme that well suitable for them?
Okay, so if I understand your question, are you asking if we have simple books but not for children?
Yes.
Oh yes, of course. Yeah, I mean, in Japan is kind of unique because Japanese university students love children's books. I know it's crazy, but they really love children's books. But we also have a lot of low-level books that are not children's books. And I'd be very happy. The best thing is after our demonstration, I will create a trial account for you, and you can take a look at the books. Okay, but we have, like, for example, Cambridge English Readers, all of the starter levels. Macmillan English Readers, we have all of the lowest level books. We have a lot of the classic stories from eFuture and Compass, also quite low level. And recently we have added more children's books because there's a strong demand for them in Japan. But you have the ability to turn those books off as well.
Okay. Okay.
Sure. Any other questions at this time?
Go, want to ask question?
Okay.
Bapak Ibu yang lain mungkin?
Okay. Otherwise, I can continue. I still have about 15 more minutes to show you, and then we can save questions for the end.
Yeah. maybe I'd like to ask about a tutorial for, I mean, is there any tutorial, are there any tutorials
Oh, of course.
that you can share for the students to operate this, resource?
Yes,
Thank you, Mr.
We have
Paul.
a tutorial. We have a very detailed tutorial for teachers because there's a lot of things to set up if you want to. There's many features. We also have a tutorial for students, but for students, it's extremely easy. Basically, like I showed you before, a student will log in and they just press add book and they go to the library and read a book. So it's very, very simple. One time a university asked me to give a demonstration for the students, and it was very embarrassing because it took only 5 minutes. So you'll see it's very simple, but yes, we do have some tutorials for students as well, and I can share those with you. That answer your question? Okay, so let me continue with the demonstration. These are additional features for students. Number one, it's an online system. So you can go to view settings, you can change the size, the spacing, even the background color. And that could be very useful depending on where the student is reading. Okay, we have quizzes for every book. These quizzes are specifically written for extensive reading, meaning we ask very simple, general questions about the book. No tricky questions, no difficult questions. They should be able to get a passing score if they read the book. An interesting feature, quizzes can be printed. Okay, so if you have a class, obviously if you're teaching online, not very useful, but if you're teaching in person and you want to print, if you notice the quizzes print with the student name at the top. And you might worry, well, if you have 25 students in one class and 25 different books, it will be very difficult to grade, but actually you can set the answer key to be the same for every book. Just don't tell the students, okay? So in this case, every quiz is DBECA. So if I give out my quizzes and I collect them, DBECA, DBECA, a teacher can grade 25 quizzes in 2 minutes. Very, very simple. And students can rate books. That's where we get the ratings from. We're in the process of creating a personal profile. It's not finished yet, but we do have a placement test. And this will let students know we have 14 levels of books. This will let students know where they belong in the different levels of books. Very important feature is audio on demand. Like I said before, the publishers make audio, but they put it on CD or on their website, and it's very hard to find. So with XReading, the student is reading, they just have to press the play button and they can listen while they read. Okay. However, there are some distinct differences between extensive reading and extensive listening. One of the main differences is speed. Who determines a student's reading speed? The student themselves. But who determines the student's listening speed? The speaker. The student doesn't have much ability to control it. That may be problematic, especially if they're trying to read and listen at the same time. So therefore, we have integrated the speed, the audio at 5 speeds without distortion. Okay, so you want to hear a quick sample for that? This is what the audio sounds like, the original speed from the publisher. Okay, please let me know what you think about the speed. Okay.
Chapter 1, Down the Rabbit Hole. Alice was beginning to get very bored. She and her sister were sitting under the trees. Her sister was reading, but Alice had nothing to do.
From my experience, most students will find that to be too slow. They can read faster. So we're going to speed it up the full 20%, and you can see how that sounds. It's going to sound strange or normal.
Alice was beginning to get very bored. She and her sister were sitting under the trees.
Okay, so I think you can hear it. Even though it's 20% faster, it sounds quite normal. by comparison, this is also 20% faster without removing the distortion.
Chapter 1. Down the rabbit hole. Alice was beginning to get very bored. She and her sister were sitting under the trees.
Okay, so I think you can hear it makes a big difference to remove the distortion. Okay, another point I want to make about listening is sometimes we want our students to practice only reading or only listening. How can you do that if they can do both? Well, we have a setting here called text and audio accessibility. You can turn off the audio so they can't press play. You can also turn off the text so they can only listen. If you do that, what will happen? This is what the student will see. Okay, they can still listen to the audio, but they can't read what the text says. Okay, some features for teachers. Number one is viewing student reading data. Okay, so you can see like it's a very standard learner management system. This is the classes page. These are all of my classes. I can get a quick summary of what they're doing. I can select one class. I can see every student and I can instantly see how many books they've read, how many words they've read, how many minutes they've read, their average reading speed, and their average quiz score. I can filter by different dates, and I can export this data to Excel anytime I want. I can select a specific student, and I can see every book the student read, when they read, and how much they read. Pink means either they have failed the quiz or they were reading too quickly. Okay, it automatically gets caught, or in this case, they haven't taken the quiz yet. If a student complains, you know, teacher, I was taking the quiz and my battery died. Well, the teacher can just go to the edit and reset the quiz or change the score. A very important feature we added this year, especially for teachers doing remote teaching, is called live monitoring. Teaching online is so challenging. One of the biggest challenges is you don't know what your students are really doing. Okay, so we've implemented this feature. While you are teaching your class, if you tell your students, please read, you can press live monitor, takes a moment, and it will tell you exactly what all of your students are doing at that moment. Okay, so gray means not logged in. Those students are absent. Dark green means, oh, they're currently reading. Light green means they're somewhere using XReading. The troublemakers are pink. These are students who have logged in recently, but are not doing anything active on XReading. Maybe they've gone to Facebook or something else. So very, very easy to catch those students. Okay, another important function for the teacher is the ability to restrict the library on these different criteria. For example, these are the different levels. If you uncheck any level, the student will not be able to see those books. The one I often use is words in a story. I tell my students, please read one book every week, but I don't want them choosing very short books. So I uncheck and the students won't be able to see those books. So in your case, if you don't want students to choose children's books, you can just uncheck the children's books and students won't be able to see them. Let's say you want all of your students to read the same book. Okay, let's imagine this week, all of my students, I want them to read Egghead. Egghead is a very, very good graded reader. It won some awards. So I will go to select specific title, and I will choose Egghead only. When I submit, when the student logs in, they press add book, they will see Egghead only. Okay. One more thing I want to show you is M-Reader. Are you familiar with M-Reader quizzes? Have you used them? This is Tom Rob's website. Okay, M-Reader is a website with quizzes for about 8,000 graded readers. The quality is so-so. They're not as good as the XReading quizzes because they're written by volunteers around the world. But there are 8,000 quizzes, no books, just the quizzes. We have integrated these into XReading. The reason for that is it allows schools to integrate their physical library into XReading. And you have a physical library. You explained to me already that you have a physical library. So this means First of all, you have to go to allow physical books and change it to yes. A student goes to your real library. They get this book, Pirates of the Caribbean. This book is not in XReading, but a student reads the real book. They come to XReading, they press add book. Oh, now they have a choice, digital or physical. Physical, Pirates of the Caribbean. Oh, here it is. They add it. This book, again, which is not in XReading, will show up in their reading history. We don't know any of their reading data, but if they take the quiz, and if they pass the quiz, we give them the word credit. Okay, so the main point is you guys have a physical library. You don't have to give up using it if you decide to use XReading. You can use both of them together. Okay, just some upcoming features. We're adding a speed reading component. If you know anything about Paul Nation, he's always suggesting that a dedicated speed reading component is very useful for students. It will help them improve their reading fluency very quickly. Pre-reading activities where students will be able to do some vocabulary activities before they start reading. Journals, students can write a journal and the teacher can read it and grade it. A leaderboard for competitions. XReading for independent authors. So we're allowing authors all around the world to add books. And an interactive dictionary. This will be a very useful feature where students will be able to tap on a word, get the meaning, and that word will get saved to their personal dictionary. Okay, thank you very much for your question, for your watching. Any final questions?
Thank you, Paul.
My pleasure.
Yeah, Bu Atiyah, Pak Agung, and Bapak Ibu yang lain, please, if you want to ask some questions related to the demonstration that has been demonstrated by Paul. Paul, may I ask you something? So how do you manage the credit readers here by level? Yeah.
I'm sorry, I couldn't understand your question.
How do you manage the collection by level?
Yeah, so you mean how are the books organized?
Yes.
Yeah, well, you can sort by publisher, you can sort by level, you can sort by genre. It's up to the user.
Okay, so I'm thinking of this. So we are from different faculties. For example, law faculty students, they want to read, and then any suggestion, can we just choose the appropriate or like what topic or story or the text or the that are related to law or what?
Yes. Now we have some books related to every topic and every major, but we don't have a lot. One project we're working on now is creating our own graded readers for different majors. So for example, right now Rob Waring is working on graded readers for business majors.
Yeah.
And another teacher is working on graded readers for nursing or medical majors. But we don't have for every major yet. We're in the middle of developing. But I really think with extensive reading, of course, it's nice for students to read books that are matching their major. But more important is it should be genres they're interested in. For example, romance or horror or nonfiction, things like that. But as a teacher, you can curate or recommend books to students.
Okay, yeah, I got it.
Sure. Any other questions?
I have a question. Yeah. Yana? Yeah.
Yeah, please.
Students without join classes, can they access the books?
I'm sorry, the audio isn't so good. Could you say that one more time? Could who access?
Can students access the book without join classes?
No. The student has to be in a class. So XReading is kind of meant to be used at the class level, but some universities just want it to be an open resource. And that's okay also. So for example, the library, at one university, the library runs it. So they just create a general class, and any student who wants to read, they add that student to that general class. It's not a real class, it's just called like library class. But generally, XReading is a classroom resource, not so much a library resource, but it certainly could be used as a library resource. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Ya, silakan Bu Atiah dulu.
Do you have limitation and amount of student per class?
You mean minimum or maximum?
Maximum.
No, there's no limit. Yeah, there's no limit.
What about the instructors? If the university use this XReading, how many instructors can use?
No limit. So instructors use XReading for free.
Okay.
The students have to have a paid subscription.
For how long the subscription?
Generally 6 months or 1 year.
Oh, especially.
And the longer the subscription, so we can do subscriptions from 1 month to 24 months.
Oh.
But the longer the subscription, the cheaper it is per month. So in other words, like a 1 month, I'm thinking in Japan, I have to check my prices for Indonesia is much cheaper than Japan. But in Japan, 1 month is about $5.
Per student.
Yes, but 1 year is about $20. So it's much, much cheaper to get 1 year than it is to get 1 month per month. That's what I meant.
So the annual year does not necessarily January to December. It's in our term.
Exactly. Yep. And yeah.
Paul, if it is library resource, can we still control the students' activities?
Well, it depends how you set it up. Every school sets it up differently. So the teacher can control their own class. But a student can be in 2 classes at the same time. So for example, my university, we used XReading in the listening class and the reading class. So if one student was in 2 classes at the same time. In one class, they would listen to very easy books, and the second class, they would read slightly more difficult books. So in your situation, a student could be in the library class and read anything they want, and they could be in a specific teacher's class and read whatever books the teacher has recommended.
I see.
Yeah, I'm sure once I create an account for you, you can get a better idea how the system works.
Ya. Bagaimana Bu Atiah? Itu Bapak Ibu yang lain mungkin, atau Bu Atiah kira-kira rencananya akan bagaimana?
Nanti lihat harus ngobrol sama Bu Rusiana sama Pak Agung.
Oh gitu ya. Iya.
Kira-kira ini bisa jadi 3 SKS yang di luar makul prodi nggak?
3 SKS di luar makul prodi untuk semua prodi ya Bu maksudnya ya?
Kurikulum Merdeka itu ya.
Well, is it okay if we are discussing in Bahasa Indonesia ya?
Any questions?
Agung.
Ya. Jadi bisa kita ini beberapa kelas itu yang internal curriculum based. Kemudian yang satunya lagi yang tadi ya kelas umum ya, general class. Bisa seperti itu ya.
Iya mungkin ya Bu Atiah. Saya tadi agak nggak mudeng kalau yang 3 SKS di luar prodi itu berarti semua prodi ya Bu ya? Dengan nama
nanti aja Bu.
Oh gitu. Oke. Mungkin Bapak Ibu yang lain ada yang mau bertanya, silakan. Bisa dibantu Bu Atiah dan saya misalnya boleh menanyakan dalam bahasa Indonesia. Jadi extensive reading ini membaca luas. Sebetulnya idenya adalah ini tidak hanya untuk mahasiswa yang jurusan bahasa Inggris, tapi bisa untuk semua mahasiswa. Dan nanti ini memang bacaannya adalah dari berbagai publisher. Kemudian, XReading VL ini dia mengakomodasi banyak publisher tadi dengan buku-buku yang berjenjang atau berlevel. Jadi namanya graded readers. Jadi level itu ada level 1 dari mulai hanya 2.000 kata misalnya atau 1.000 kata. Nah itu tadi saya tanyakan, misalnya untuk mahasiswa hukum atau mahasiswa apapun itu sebetulnya begini. Ini kita membentuk dulu atau membangun budaya membaca mahasiswa. Mungkin ini bisa misalnya nanti kalau bisa gitu kita programnya mungkin 6 bulan dulu melihat, dan itu malah bisa di research oleh perpus Bu kalau menurut saya. Jadi nanti apakah akan ada apa namanya peningkatan reading habits, karena semua aktivitas mahasiswa itu bisa di-track di aplikasi tersebut. Jadi berapa buku yang dia baca, berapa kata yang dia baca bahkan, dan tadi disampaikan jangan memberikan tugas misalnya untuk setengah satu semester, tapi berikanlah 2 minggu biar kelihatan. Karena tadi kan kalau kita login, kita nggak baca buku itu kelihatan dengan warna tadi yang abu-abu muda, abu-abu ya hijau muda. Kalau hijau berarti dia baca, kalau pink berarti dia malah nggak login atau bagaimana. Jadi kita bisa track semuanya. Nah, seperti itu Bapak Ibu gambarannya. Jadi ini membantu juga bahwa begini, nanti ketika tadi kan disampaikan ya mungkin akan yang selanjutnya akan ada yang jurnal begitu, tapi yang sementara ini tersedia sepertinya adalah semua buku dengan apa ya, dengan cakupan yang mungkin sangat luas. Kalau buku fisiknya di perpustakaan juga sudah ada, barangkali Bapak Ibu Kaprodi bisa melihat juga, tapi untuk kebijakan nanti mungkin memang dari perpus dan mungkin PT lain begitu. Saya kan kurang tahu apakah ada program atau mungkin budget, karena ini berbudget, karena ini nggak free, jadi tadi hitungannya Bu Atia sudah verso. Begitu Bapak Ibu. Apakah mungkin ada yang ditanyakan Bu Mas Fuah, Bu siapa ya tadi ya, Bapak Ibu yang ada di sini?
Saya punya usul itu begini Bu. Jadi di setiap prodi itu kita ini gali mahasiswa-mahasiswa yang punya passion untuk membaca. Nah itu kita fasilitasi itu. Kemudian dijadikan satu kelas atau apa paling tidak per fakultas satu kelas gitu untuk ini memacu mereka yang punya passion untuk berkembang literasinya.
Saya setuju Pak. Jadi mungkin tidak langsung untuk semua ribuan mahasiswa kita, tapi mungkin yang tertarik bisa lewat mungkin Google Form gitu. Kalau nanti jadi di ACC, dan mungkin jumlahnya tidak perlu yang banyak dulu, mungkin untuk pilot project begitu ya Pak ya. Cuman yang tadi saya tanyakan itu Bu Atia, apakah kalau nanti library resource itu kita ngeceknya bagaimana? Per kelas kan harus ada yang tanggung jawab ngecek gitu. Kalau enggak kan nanti tidak mengetahui track mahasiswa yang sudah join di ini, padahal kan ini berbayar gitu. Ya mungkin nanti untuk pertimbangan selanjutnya ya Bu Atia ya.
Excuse me Paul.
Sure.
Okay. For the class report and student progress, per instructors can control, but can the university admin control the report too? I mean, evaluate the report.
Okay, so I don't know how many teachers you are thinking to use something like to use XReading, but there's 2 ways to set it up. Okay, for smaller institutions with less than 10 teachers, they will usually create one instructor login and all the teachers can share it. Okay, because 2 teachers can log in at the same time. For bigger institutions, they usually create one administrator and then give each teacher their own teacher account. Okay, so really either way, the teachers and the administrators can both access the student data. And I guess, Luciana, you and I can talk. If you decide to use XReading, we can decide which is the best way to the administrator and individual teachers, or just one teacher account. We can discuss which is better for you.
Yeah, we've got 8,000 students.
How many?
8,000.
Okay, yeah, so in that case, definitely would be better. Yeah, so we have quite a few schools, big schools like that, and definitely would be better for a central administrator and then each teacher to have their own account.
Yeah,
because that way when a teacher logs in, they don't want to see so many classes, not their own class. They will see only their own classes. The central administrator will see all the classes.
Yeah.
When the class is over, can we still access it? I mean the instruction.
Yeah, for 4 years. The data, yeah, even if you don't use XReading in the future, if you use it for 1 year and decide that you don't want to use it, almost everybody continues using it, I think. But if you decide you don't want to continue using it, the data will remain for at least 4 years. Yeah, because many schools do research. I don't know if you know a man named Willie Renandia, but he sets up a lot of research projects using XReading because there's so much data for teachers. And, of course, professors have to be doing research all the time. So it's a very good tool. So we keep the data there for people who need to do research.
I'm thinking of doing that.
Okay, great. Yeah, it's really.
Yeah, Bu Atia, let's make kind of institutional research for researching on this issue.
Yeah, it's very good. And, we try to support schools that are doing research, and it's very good for the community, and people are learning how important extensive reading is. And in the past, you had to ask your students, how much did you read? And you have to write down or put in the computer. Now it's all tracked automatically. It makes it much, much easier to conduct research.
Yeah.
And
it can be downloaded to Excel very easily.
Oh, okay. In Indonesia, which Indonesia university have subscribed?
I can't remember the name. I can send you a list. I don't know if I don't know so much about universities in Indonesia. I don't know if they're top universities or not so good. I know in Japan, there's 300 universities using XReading, some of the top universities. Also Thailand, the #1 university is using it. In Indonesia, I'm happy to share with you a list and give you some references, but I don't know the names offhand. I have to check. I know the name Yogyakarta is in the name sometimes, or Negri or something like that. Timor, I think that means east, and Negri maybe north. I don't know. Yeah, I'd be happy to share with you a list of schools.
Apakah ada lagi Bu Atia?
Bapak Ibu yang lain menawi ada.
Atau cukup? Mungkin Ibu. Ini tadi ada Bapak Ibu yang lain ya, banyak ya. Ada Bu Titis, ada Pak Parnyo, ada Bu Sekar.
Ya.
Ada Bu Ambar dari UPT ya Pak ya?
I'm listening, Furus.
Oh yeah, you're listening.
Ada Bu Titis,
You can talk or ask question to Paul, Bu, related to your research. Listening ya Bu ya.
I do not know much about reading.
About extensive reading and this program perhaps.
Yes.
Tapi bisa untuk listening juga ini Bu Titis. Yang tadi.
Oh, I see.
Bu Atia, apakah cukup atau masih ada yang perlu ditanyakan?
Last question ya.
Ya, silakan Bu.
Do you have special level, for example, extensive reading for writing gitu?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that question very well.
Is there a special level, for example, extensive reading for writing, or as?
Not yet. So there's some teachers who are creating courses to integrate extensive reading into different areas. For example, again, the university I mentioned in Thailand, they have a presentation course, and they're now creating an extensive reading program specifically for the extensive reading course. But we don't have anything just yet. Right now, really, that's up to institutions to create their own resource or their own course. We, of course, can support them. For the teacher doing the presentation course, we talked about some various ideas how to set that up. Does that answer your question? I don't know if I understood it exactly.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Monggo, dari kami cukup Bu.
Oh yeah. Oh, perhaps we're waiting for the teacher plan 2021-2022. If I'm not mistaken, I see journals there. So you are now perhaps working on it, Paul?
On journals?
The last slide.
Oh, the journal feature. You mean, oh, hold on. Do you mean this one, journals?
Yeah, yes, this one.
Oh, actually, we already we did that one. So to be honest, pre-reading and journals we finished last month. I just didn't have time to make my slide. Yeah, they're both very nice. And the speed reading will be done in about 3 weeks, 3 or 4 weeks.
Oh, it's okay.
Yeah. We're constantly working to improve the system. XReading is, my dream is to make it the perfect tool for teachers everywhere in the world. So we're constantly adding new features.
Okay. Well, Paul, we're going to have internal discussion of this meeting, and later we'll get back to you soon. Bu Atiyah, yeah, Bu Atiyah, I think we'll get back to you soon. And what kind of other benefits that we can get except of this easiness in managing our students to read?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many. I mean, just students. There's I'd say the main benefits, of course, it's going to help students reading fluency and their general English ability, but also by reading books, fiction and nonfiction, they're going to just expand their knowledge. I mean, reading, even for native speakers in their own language, is such an important activity, because that's how you learn about the world. Yes, it's nice to watch TV or watch YouTube, but through reading, students can really get a much deeper knowledge of other cultures and just stories about people. So I think it's a very important resource in that regard. Never mind helping students improve their English ability, but just becoming more knowledgeable is an important feature, an important consideration to make. But I also think it would be good if you take a look at the system yourselves. So once you finish discussing, if you're still not sure, I'd be very happy to create a trial account for you.
Yeah, sure.
And I think an important point these days is, if you don't know if students can come to campus, then having an online resource like this is very useful. So many schools in Japan have reported that without something like XReading, their students would have very little access to content. Google Classrooms or things like that, they are an LMS, but they don't provide content for students like XReading does.
Yeah, sure. Okay. I was actually thinking of inviting you as a resource person in kind of seminar for our students. That's what I meant by the other benefit that we can have from XReading VL. If later we can use XReading VL in our institution.
Yeah, I don't typically speak to students, but I can give workshop for your teachers. I mean, this was a workshop about XReading, a demonstration, but I'd be very happy to give a workshop on extensive reading and explain why it's so important. Of course, using XReading is one important point, but I can just explain. So very often for universities that are new to extensive reading, I will give a 1-hour workshop for their teachers. Okay. I prefer to come in person, but of course, these days we would probably have to do it on Zoom.
Okay, yeah.
We'd be very happy to give a training session for your teachers.
Yeah. Thank you, Paul.
One final thing I want to mention, I think I sent you some of the prices for over 1,000 students. We start discounting the price, so just something to keep in mind. We can discuss that later on if you want.
Yes.
But yeah, because of the larger number, the publishers have some control over the price of XReading, but when the number of students gets larger, we have more flexibility.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, great. It's nice. Yeah.
So much for your time. I hope you all have a good, enjoy the rest of your morning. I'm just getting to the afternoon here.
Yeah.
And if you have any questions, please get in touch. I think you can see my email address there.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Paul.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. Thank you, Bapak Ibu. Ini sepertinya sudah, nanti pembicaraan lebih lanjut mungkin Bu Atiyah ya dengan Pak Agung atau mungkin dengan Bapak Ibu atau yang lain. Baik, selesai ya Bu Atiyah? Atau kamu foto dulu Bu Atiyah?
Sudah.
Oh sudah, oke ya. Thank you Paul, thank you Bapak Ibu. Ya, this is the end of thank you very much. Ya,
Bye bye.
ya, bye bye. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Terima
Terima kasih Bu Rusiana.
Ya,
Bu
sama-sama
Atiyah.
Pak Agung, terima kasih Bu
Wah,
Atiyah. Bapak
good
Ibu.
program. Memang harus didorong membaca nih kita. Anak-anak apa mahasiswa ya. Mantap.
Mohon. Bu Fuah.
Kita live ya, Bu. Ibu Atiyah, Burus.
Ya,
Bapak Ibu, Bu Titis.
ini sudah ya Bu Atiyah ya, boleh live berarti ya.
Bisa di end Bu.
Oh di end saja ya.
Nggak apa-apa. Makasih,
Oke.
makasih Bu Rusiana.
Ya, sama-sama Bu.
Zoom-nya.
Nanti kita ngobrol-ngobrol
Ya.
lagi.
Insya Allah kita
Terima
lanjut ngobrol
kasih.
lagi.
Assalamualaikum.
Assalamualaikum.
Siap. Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi
Bu, saya baru join kok udah habis.
Sudah selesai.
Udah.
Ada
Sudah
recordingnya
1 jam,
tadi.
Bu.
Ada recordingnya ya Bu Atiyah.
Ya ada.
Ada recordingnya, Bu. Ya.
Oh ya,
nanti bisa.
alhamdulillah saya pengen nonton kok.
Iki